it doesn't matter how you say things. If people have a way that they want to interpret something, so you could say it to your blue in the face, they are going to see it from their vantage point, period.
Absolutely.
I had to ask my husband.
What did he say?
I said, baby, I have a question for you. He's like, what? I said, what's my toxic trait? And he's like, huh? And he says, this version of Kiara is dismissive of other people's feelings. You acknowledge.
Yeah, I acknowledge it.
That you were not good with criticism.
No, I was not. No. Welcome to another episode of Not Your Average Aunties. I'm Joe.
I'm Key.
And I'm Jay. We're not your average aunties.
We're not. We keeping it raw,
real, and relatable.
Yes. So today's topic, what we talking about today, ladies?
Oh. What is your toxic trait? Are you going to be real with us and tell us what it is, or you want people to figure that out?
Sometimes it's not always obvious, even to the person that don't about themselves. They don't even know half the time what their damn toxic traits are.
You right about that. You right about that. Let's define it first.
Go on.
A toxic trait is a behavior, habit, or mindset that negatively impacts relationships, interactions, or even your own personal growth.
Mm-hmm.
These traits are often rooted in insecurities, past experiences, or unassigned issues, and they can manifest in ways that are harmful to the individual and those around them.
Absolutely.
Examples include being overly critical, passive aggressive,
yes,
controlling, or dismissive of others' feelings.
I have some other examples of stonewalling, avoiding conversations, shutting down when things get tense, often confused when things take place, but it can feel as being dismissive, even when the shutting down could be over apologizing, constantly saying you're sorry. It's a way to, I guess, kind of might be manipulative because you figure, I say sorry, they forgive me, I do the same dumb crap again, it's repetitive kind of thing. So yeah, scorekeeping.
Tit for tat type nonsense. Okay. So who wants to go with the toxic trait?
I don't think I had any of these toxic traits. My toxic trait, well, it used to be. I'm learning to adjust it. I don't know if it's a toxic trait or not, but I tend to ruminate on things. I tend to keep overthinking things, going through the scenario, going through what happened, trying to figure out if you made a left turn versus a right turn, would it have turned out differently? So I stay stuck in things like that because I'm constantly trying to figure out how could I have had a different outcome if I did something differently, knowing damn well the outcome probably is going to be the outcome because you can't control other people. But that's one of my, I think, toxic traits is I sit in stuff too long.
Okay. You know what? I recently read, literally last week, that overthinkers, a reason behind that is because you don't trust yourself.
Sometimes I
had to sit with that.
Yeah.
I had to sit with that for a second.
Yeah, that makes sense. I do question my decisions after the fact, but then I often come back and be like, listen, you already made the decision, now move on. But yeah, that kind of makes...
I've read that and I said, woo.
Yeah.
I said, they're onto something. Yeah.
Because if all people, I should trust me. But, I mean, hey, we're human. Things...
Sometimes it's not about trusting you. It can also mean you're worrying about how other people may perceive it. You may like it. You may be confident in whatever it is you're doing. But you also want to be mindful or take your audience into account. And sometimes that may hinder you because not everybody's going to see your thought process. But I've also come to learn throughout the years that everybody has their own way of doing things.
Yes. So. Facts. That's facts. What's your toxic trait?
My loyalty. It was brought up in another episode that we did where both of y'all said and I'll agree to that. I try to see the good in people as much as possible. Because the minute you do cross me, I will forget you ever existed.
For some people, but maybe not for all.
And not for all. But I've gotten better at that.
So
I'm still working on it.
Loyalty to a fault.
Yes.
Okay. So I had to ask my husband.
What did he say?
I literally did. I said, baby, I have a question for you. He's like, what? I said, what's my toxic trait? And he's like, huh? And he says, this version of Kiera is dismissive of other people's feelings. And I had to sit with that for a second because I said, I think you're right. And then I said, you're right. This version of me, I'm less inclined to be benevolent as I would have in the past. Like you had, like you're saying, of thinking of other people's feelings. I do it, but it's very measured. Because he's like, he says, sometimes you lack empathy.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that is showing up in me more in this version of me. And it might have shown up in the past too. But I'm always one to try to put myself in someone else's shoes. And this is what I said, the counter argument to what he told me. I said, I do try to put myself and see things from their vantage point. But once I see it, then I make the determination whether it's stupid or not, or whether you can pull yourself out or not. And if you're not willing to pull yourself out, this version of me is less likely to help. I don't have I gotta protect me. I can't.
I was going to ask you: is it more? Is it really a lack of what do you say? Empathy, or is it more of a feeling? Is it really being dismissive, or is it really you protecting yourself? Because I don't know. I don't live with you every day. I don't sleep with you every night. But I remember Akira, who was very, very like I don't know how it's like very like to the point and done. Versus now, I see at least in conversations that we have, you're like, I'm trying to think about this before I do or say this. So is it really you're being dismissive or lacking empathy, or is it really more now protecting yourself because you know how you were back then when you was like really probably less, I would say probably less empathetic back then, or less considerate of other people's feelings back then. It's like, I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do, F everybody else. Where now you're kind of like taking the time to really put some thought into how you're gonna respond, because you know people can't always handle you. Yeah, and they receive you the way that you are. So I think, I don't know, I'm seeing the opposite of that in you. And yes, it could probably, because you're still going to get to a point where you're going to be like, I tried and I'm done. So I can see that. Yeah. But I think you're taking more time now to do that than you. That's just my.
Yeah, I think is a little bit of that. I am in a space where I'm trying to protect myself, because I've also found that, at least within the last 2 or 3 years, that if someone's giving me a problem, I'm consuming it. I'm making it my own. And that is taking too much energy from me. It's not my problem. Right. But if they're asking me for advice and I'm giving them advice, but I will sit with it. It'll still stay with me. And maybe it's the menopause. Maybe it's, I don't know. Because I never was like that. It never sat with me this long. Yeah. And so it's doing something where I'm ruminating over it. I'm like, wow, I'm hurting for them. And it's just taking too much energy for me. So now I don't want it. Yeah. I that's your issue. Right. And so yes, I'm being more, when people do step to me with something, I'm being more cautious on how it comes out, because that abruptness, that directness, depending on what mood you catch me in, I know sometimes it can be abrasive, and I'm trying not to.
Yeah, that was the word. But yeah. So maybe now you're getting rid of it more quicker than you did before. Maybe you're not holding on to it.
Yeah, I ain't trying to.
So maybe
so now it comes off.
Yeah, it's like, I'm not. Yeah, I said what I said. I listened. I'm responding in my best way possible. I'm done with it, and so maybe maybe what it really is. I don't know. I don't see you as being. I find you less abrasive now. That young fiery. I mean, you're still fiery now.
You're still a firecracker now.
Well, but I try to be mindful, because people, like, to your point, they're not ready for it. They can't handle it, and then I'm like, you know what? Sometimes y'all deserve it. Just saying. But yeah, I try not to ruminate over other people's issues. I got my own. Right. And I'm of the mind, like the same thing I used to preach to my kids: you can't save the world. Right. You can't take everyone. It can't come with you. I am adopting those same principles, and it's like either you're gonna figure it out on your own, or if I can't help you. I don't have the capacity anymore. Or at least this version of me. Who knows what the future may hold.
So now that we've all identified our toxic traits, or ones we think we know we have, Kira was smart. She would ask somebody else. Are you trying to work on those things? Or are you trying to make adjustments?
I can do one better.
What?
I gave you what I thought mine was. So in line with your thought process, what do you think mine is?
Well, can we answer the question I posed first?
I like her question.
I like your question. So what? Or do we want to reverse? Do we want to just address your question, then come back to mine?
Okay, let's address her question. So what do you think Joe's toxic trait is?
Joe can get fixated and stubborn, and it's hard for her to let things go. So I think you hold on to things.
I agree. I love you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But you do hold on to things.
Yeah. And I think you have some that you're constantly coming back to things that like probably happened, God, I don't know how long ago, but it sticks with you. You hold on to things.
From how long ago?
I don't know. It could be anything. I'm just saying you bring things up that we've had conversations recently about stuff that happened God knows how long ago. Not recently, but since I moved to this state, I'll just say you brought things to me in a conversation about stuff that happened years ago that I'm like, wow, why are we even talking about this now? But I entertained the conversation. It was okay. It wasn't like nothing bad. But
You have to remind me of this.
I don't remember.
But I do see that you do tend to hold on to things, and I think sometimes because I don't know, maybe in the moment
Something triggered it,
or it bothered you. Maybe it went unaddressed. I don't know.
But it's usually something that's or maybe it's because my feelings are being dismissed.
Or maybe yes.
So it's something to occur. Yes, harping on it. You said I'm getting my point across.
Yeah.
So usually when I'm doing that, that means that my feelings are being dismissed.
Mm-hmm.
Or that's how I'm feeling in that moment.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm.
So if I want to respect you when you give a point, I expect the same in return.
Absolutely.
That's fair.
Gotcha.
That's fair.
Okay. So what do you think ours is?
Mm-hmm.
We share the same.
What do you mean?
She's letting go more. Like, if a point is being brought to the realm and she's not in agreement with a comment that either one of us make, she will harp on it or keep going to make sure her point gets across. Now, before, she didn't care about our feelings. It would just come out. And that was one of the things I loved about her, because she was raw with her thoughts.
But I wouldn't say
now she's
I think
careful with what she says.
Yeah.
And
I didn't think she didn't care. She just,
it depends on the person.
She said what she has to say. And that's what I appreciated about her as well. Yeah, so. And she still does it. She just does it a little bit
more tactfully.
Right.
Yeah, I try to. Because it depends. If it's somebody that I love and care about, I do want you to see and understand my vantage point, right? Now, if it's somebody, but even if it's not, if it's just someone that I'm like, hey, this is an important thing that you need to know, I'm going to try to articulate in a way that you can digest it. What I've learned over the years is that it doesn't matter how you say things. If people have a way that they want to interpret something, so you could say it to your blue in the face, they are going to see it from their vantage point, period.
Absolutely.
And they will be dismissive of it. So I've learned, why am I wasting my breath? I already said it one time. I may say it 2 times. And you know the saying, sometimes people need to hear things 7 times before they get it. I'm not going to say it 7 times. You got 3 times with me. And after that, it's like,
yeah,
we're at an impasse. And I can't. So now I separate myself. Which is interesting, because I had some friends that say to me, you know, because I can be by myself without no problem. And someone recently said to me, Donna, they need to be around people. And they were like, I never known you to, meaning me, to be by yourself. And I'm like, did you really know me?
Right.
Did you really know me? Because I can't be, and the reason why they say that, I realize that because they always see me in a gathering, a party, and this, and I'm very social.
Yeah.
But my battery runs dead. And I could be a social in the life of the party. And then after that, I'm like, I got to be by myself.
Just so she disappeared.
I would disappear. I said, Irish Jamaicans. Because it's like, okay, it's enough, you know? And so that when they made that comment to me, I'm like, do you really? Maybe you don't. You just know me in this setting. You don't really know me.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think we're veering off.
Okay, so we told her toxic trait.
And she's trying got to tell Shatawa.
Right.
So mine is dismissive of feelings. That's what you're saying?
A little something, yeah.
For sure. Okay. Yeah. I agree. I could acknowledge that.
Mine? Curious to know.
I don't really have one for you. I'm being honest.
Okay. Kira?
I don't know. I think I don't think you have one. I mean, like, I can see how you can ruminate over things and overthink. That I do. I can see that. But it's something that's like gonna be. That's not something to me that's gonna like bother or me. That's something that's gonna.
It's my
That's your situation.
That's my
so
stuff.
so that's why I'm saying for me externally, I don't see. You got good vibes. You do what you got to do. I don't really see like I don't know.
I guess the reason why I don't have one, because even though we've known each other for so long, we've gotten closer
over the
last few years because now we're really outside each other. So
makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't see anything like because that begs the question. It could be toxic traits that are internal, like within yourself, that might not have an impact on anyone else, unless they're waiting for you to make a decision.
Or if I come back, I made a decision, and I'm come back and I'm questioning that decision.
Yeah.
So I could see how that could impact somebody because I've done that. I'm not super indecisive, but I'll make a decision and I'll move forward with it. But that's one of the things that I've been working on. I've been working on that to stop ruminating over things, like let it go because it's done. What was the lesson in that? And then just move on. So,
but I don't think it's based on you making decisions because I've known you to be when you say you're going to do it, that's it. And you don't veer from that. It may be an idea that you ruminate over, but
that's when I make decisions on doing something for others. If I say I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it and I will do it. But when I make decisions for myself sometimes, or I'll say something that maybe I'll spit off an email sometimes. And this happens sometimes mostly I've identified this in a work environment. Let's start there.
Yes.
Okay. So where I would make a decision or something would happen and I would sit there and think about it over and over and over and over again. What could I have done, said differently, done differently. And it kind of presented itself again to me last year. And I realized it. So I want to not get back in that space because that's where it originally started at. And I had someone tell me, you can't sit in this. What was the lesson you got out of it?
Right.
Nothing else. And how are you going to think about things going forward? So I saw that starting to that behavior or that trait rear its head recently in the last quarter of the year. But then for me personally, I do it as well. I will make a decision and I'll be like, So now to avoid that, I'm taking sometimes a little bit longer to do things because I want to make sure I'm not going to be having those kind of think backs and be like, oh, did I really want to do that? Or think about how could I do something differently. So I'm like making sure I'm slow to move and be more thoughtful and methodical in what I do. So I don't have those kind of things. So that's what I'm working on. So I don't have to deal with those things, but have that toxic trait.
I would say the one that I can point out for myself is that I do tend to procrastinate. So it's weird because I can be so spontaneous and do something because I like things. Anyway, the wind blows, I'm going to, and then act on it. Oh, let's do this. Boom, let's do it. And we're doing it, right? But then equally, I get bored easily. So I can say, let's do this. And then if it's not giving me that energy that I want, it's like, this is boring. Let's move on. Right? But on the flip side of that, you would think someone that's like, "Ooh, let's do this." They constantly get things done all the time. For me, I will procrastinate, and that is not a good thing, because then I find myself like rushing against when I could have just avoided if I would have just got it. How do they say, eat the frog, right? In the morning, right? You do the thing that you don't want to do first, get it done.
Right.
And sometimes I just be like, oh, I don't want to be bothered with this. You know, so since you already started talking about the steps that you were taking to overcome it, for me, now it's like if I have to do something, I get it done. Because historically in the past, when I was younger, I got it done.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to get back into that mode of, come on, even if you know you don't like it, you got to get it done.
The gratification of checking something off of that damn to-do list.
It's a wonderful thing.
It's a wonderful feeling.
Check. And then I say, oh, I even did that too.
Like, yes. Check. It's productivity. So it's like, and it could be anything, personal or professional.
Yeah.
It's like, so now, like they say, like I mentioned, eat that frog. You got to do it in the morning. Just get it done. And you'll feel so much better when you tackle the biggest task first. And then you're like, oh.
Or the one that you just don't want to really touch. Cause it could be small, but you just don't want to deal with it. Yes. Get it out of the way. So, do you think people are really in tune with what their toxic traits are?
I think it's hard for people to recognize it.
Recognizing it, but also they probably don't even want to accept it either. Somebody tell them, like,
right.
Like, was it, you didn't, I guess it wasn't hard for you to accept it when Richard told you because you agreed to it, and it was just kind of, I guess, confirmed here today, but I don't even think they want to accept it.
I think, so here's the thing. The reason why it's not hard for me to agree to is because I do so much self-reflection on myself. Is that a toxic trait? Because I've been doing it forever. I've been doing it since I was a
I think that's
just assessing and assessing. So when someone tells me something, I'm like, yeah, I know that.
Yeah.
Now, sometimes I'm working on it. Sometimes there's reasons for it. Sometimes it's situational why I show up the way I show up in certain things.
Yep.
But so that's why it's easy for me to digest. But realize a lot of people don't do that they don't do those self-audits.
I think it's a very
so when they hear something that someone tells you about yourself, it's like a shock to their system, and then they become defensive.
Right.
And you're like, how? What are you talking about? Da-da-da-da. Because you didn't take the time to like sit with yourself and be like, this is how I am.
Or they're just not in tune because more than one person to tell them the same thing, and they still don't believe it about themselves because they just don't.
They see themselves.
Don't do the self-reflection, and they don't think that way of themselves. They can't accept that. So it's crazy.
I think I've gotten better with taking. Now I act all the time.
But so I was taking. What do you mean?
Now I've gotten better at taking in the criticism or taking in your thoughts, not just you. I've been asking everyone because I've been doing the self-reflection. So,
you acknowledge?
Yeah, I acknowledge it
that you were not good with criticism.
No, I was not. No.
Because people think some people also take the word criticism is negative, where it's not, and it's not. But I will also add that as you're receiving that feedback, listen to it, hear it, and assess it. Because it's not all good feedback. It's not all true feedback. So don't believe everything from every person. As you're doing that self-reflection, as you're listening and taking in this feedback, look at the two and be like, do you agree or not agree? Because that's a part of the self-reflection.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily taking what they say is true, but it's also understanding, do I agree with what they're saying?
And I have.
Yeah.
Because before, I would come at you, saying, no, that's not it. No. But now I have been more open to listening because I do want to grow and improve myself, period, just in all angles.
Yeah.
So that takes time, and that also takes you listening to to the people around you and finding, was there anything that I've ever done? Is there something that I'm doing now you think I can change? I'm always looking for advice. So,
and I'll piggyback off what Janine said too, and especially for the listeners out there. It's just to reiterate, is super critically important that the messenger is someone that's not trying to malign you or do something malicious, because sometimes you could ask someone for their, feedback on something, and they're giving you something, but there's not a lot of truth to it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So that's why
it's their mirror. Actually, you're their mirror sometimes.
Sometimes you are their mirror, and and then they don't even want to acknowledge where they're wrong. So but they're so quick to point out you did. So sometimes it's even me. Anytime I listen to somebody, I'm like, okay, is what they're saying true? Who's the messenger? Is this someone of substance? Do I feel? And sometimes
Or value
and sometimes it could be a stranger, because sometimes they may see stuff that your friends don't or are afraid to say, but they're on the outside looking in and like, hey, hang on a second. So that's what I'm saying. You just gotta like weigh it and then take the feedback and then balance it across what you see. Now, if there's a common denominator, like if everyone's telling me, I'm gonna use myself as an example, Kira, you be dismissive of feelings. You said it. She said it. My husband said it. My daughter say it. This, that. My kid.
True.
Well, and then it's so
truth and just like truth in there.
Yeah. All right. Now, if someone says, Kira, you lack loyalty, and no one's ever told me that, but let's say they did. If one person here and it's sparse over there, and I'm like, maybe the person that's saying I lack loyalty, I'm pointing to you, but not saying it's to you. Maybe it's because of how I showed up in their world, by their standards of what they believe to be as loyal. But that doesn't mean that I lack loyalty. It just means that that person seeing me at this state, whatever it is, and however I showed up, and maybe, depending on the person, it could be warranted. Maybe that's all that.
I was gonna say maybe it's. I was gonna say.
So that's why you always have to evaluate.
Absolutely.
What in that self-reflection.
They're not surely of your laws. Baby, that's why you're not showing up that way for them. But maybe you didn't know that. Like it could be one thing. You didn't know that, so now they're telling you.
Yeah.
And you could think about it. Or two, they are not even worthy of it. Like, who is this person that they need to I need to be giving them my loyalty to?
Exactly. Some of them not work. Child, they ain't names. Don't even get me started, child. I got a question. Can toxic traits be a result of past experiences or trauma?
I had that same question. It can be. I think so.
Yeah, I think so. I think most of them probably are from some sort of traumatic event. Like whatever's trauma to that personal, because what's trauma to me may not be traumatic to you, right? So I do think it comes from that.
Like an example could be someone who doesn't trust anyone or anybody because they've never had anyone that showed up for them. So they have no one they have no way to say, okay, I can possibly trust this person, because any and everybody that I've ever encountered in my life failed me. I never could trust them. So they're not going to trust nobody, not ever, not never.
That's true. That's right.
I've been told that recently.
You don't trust?
That I'm not willing to, but you're not displaying or showing me that you're a person that can be trusted.
Well, there you have it. There you have it.
They go into actions. So you can sit here and talk until you blue in the face to me, but your actions are speaking louder than words. And until I see something different, that this is what you get.
Area. Listen, my father, may he rest in peace, he used to always say, talk is cheap.
Yeah.
Talk is cheap. And it is sometimes.
It is.
People talk a good game, but they don't follow through.
You ain't as fun as your word. So if you're going to tell something and you're not going to do it, then there you go. But if you say it and then you do it, then we know.
Stand on business. And people don't do that. People talk, they talk. I'm going to do this. And then next thing you know, when it comes down, let me shut up. Let me not. People talk, they talk, and then be faking the fun. And I ain't got time.
I don't like to be niggers over here. Don't be reneging on shit. You say,
like, we ain't playing spades. Put the damn card. That's right. No reneging. Call your card. Right. And if you can't, then that's that.
Yeah.
Come on now.
I agree.
Please.
I agree. So if you got any toxic traits out there that you want to share with the aunties and get some feedback on, let us know.
Hit us up in the comments.
Share it and what you're doing to overcome it, because we talked about how we are working to overcome ours, but there may be ways that you have overcome yours or helped a partner or friend overcome theirs, that could be beneficial to others. So feel free to share in the comments so everybody can, each one teach one, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. So next time.
Until next time, everybody.
Cheers.
Cheers.